Good morning. I hope you're doing well and prospering. We're deep into the topic of business rules. I think we're about video number 8. Today's is a very complex topic. Only if you followed me this far into business rules, you are really interested in them. And I think you're going to find what we learned today very helpful. And tools that I will be giving to you today will be even more helpful than even the video, just knowing this tool exists. It's all about mapping the data. Once you know you want a field, actually finding the field. Thank you for sticking with me, and so let's get going. We are really deep into business rules, and it's going to get a lot deeper in just a few minutes. To get ourselves thinking in the right direction, let's consider this business rule. You could see it happens at the end of the ledger entry line, and it's entitled Accounts Payable Payments via Check or Bank Allocation. So this is using the Accounts Payable module. Now, I don't want you to shut your mind off or even shut the video off, because the example is using the Accounts Payable module, and you might not be using. You say, oh, well, it's not relevant to me. Oh, it is too. I'm just using that as an example. Complex problem is what we're studying. The particular problem is not important. Notice here a couple things that are happening in this business rule. If the journal type is accounts payable and the account types are either client or creditor, and then it asks, what is the payment method? Many of you have done 1,000 of these ledger screens, and nowhere does it ask for the payment method, and so you're left with the question, what is payment method? I would imagine that hardly anybody listening to this knows what the payment method is. Well, let's dig in and discover that for the purpose of showing you how to find deep data in Sun Systems. Everything over here, remember, is a field, a data field somewhere in Sun System. The easiest ones are the ones that are on the ledger entry screen. If journal type is accounts payable, well, right up here we have journal type accounts payable's been entered, and so the business rule knows to look right here. But it gets deeper than that. Now it is asking for the account type. We entered an account number right here, but now this business rule has the power to look not just at this ledger entry screen, but one step deeper, or actually many steps deeper, but will look deeper into the static data connected to the field here. If you put in an account number here, the business rule is looking back to the chart of accounts to see what type of account it is. That's what we're asking it to do here. So you see the power here is tremendous, because not only are you bringing in information from the ledger entry screen, you're bringing it in from really deep from within Sun Systems. Let's continue. So this little conditional clause here is saying look at the account number, then go back to the account type. Go from the ledger entry screen back to the chart of accounts to see what account type it is. It even gets deeper. And then it's saying the payment method. And you're lost with saying, what in the world is the payment method? Well, what it has done is it has gone back to the account number and the chart of accounts. When you set up the client and creditor on the account, you also set up the client and creditor details of what method are they paid. So it is going back to the chart of accounts, then linking from the chart of accounts back to the details on that supplier, that client or creditor, and looking at the payment method that can be set up whenever you set up a client or creditor. And then what it does, this business rule, is looking at the allocation marker that was set up when you did the ledger entry down here, and it's looking at the setting of the allocation marker. So it's not going deep at this moment, it just goes back right to ledger entry and looks at the allocation marker. If it is a bank payment method, it sets it up as a marker 2. If it is a check payment method, it sets it up as marker 1. If it is neither one, if it's not specified, it makes you choose the allocation marker. If you're not doing the accounts payable module, you don't have to understand it deeply. The accounts payable process uses the allocation marker to determine whether to print the checks or not, or make a bank payment. Well, it gets the information to know that from the allocation marker, but this business rule sets the allocation marker depending on the payment method method for the client or creditor set up back over in client and creditor setup. You might say, I have no interest in business rules of that depth. But let's just look at a simple business rule. We want to remember the term payment method, and let's look at the way that would be created. So every one of these values here and value 1 are referring back to a data field somewhere in Sun System. Somewhere, whether it's in the ledger entry screen or whether it is in the static data. You could just imagine how deep that could get. Well, you have to find it in order to use that field in the business rule, and you find it by this. It seems simple enough. We have to find the data field that we want to act on here, and so we've gone over to this little helper button to pull it in. It has to be pulled in, and that brings us to these 4 major categories. Rule common fields. These would be fields that are available in every business rule. Function data hierarchy. Remember, that doesn't mean function in our accounting sense, but it means the ledger entry function. It knows what function we're on by the event that was used to define this business rule. And so the function data hierarchy is all connected to our ledger entry screen. Ledger entry is the function from the Sun Systems perspective, and so all of the information relative to that function is available. Rule data sets are talked about in the early video. These are all the rule data sets that we have created, and this is the workspace fields. So let's go through this real slow, and then we'll go through it rapidly. Now what I'm going to do is skip function data hierarchy. Rule common fields. These fields are available for your rules no matter what type of rule you're making. For example, the line number or the business unit, if somehow or another you need that in your business rule, it is there. This data here is available no matter what function you're making a business rule about. I believe that we have no particular depth to there, and so let's go back, and then we have rule data sets. Here are all the rule data sets that I have created. This was all made by Carl when he was setting it up. This was sort of a user-defined data sets that have been passed. That was the previous video. And then here are the workspaces, and we've used these before, and you could see that we have some 20 amount workspaces, and then I believe we have 20 general workspaces, 5 date workspaces, and about 5 period workspaces. All those available for making your rules. The real boogeyman here is the function data hierarchy. Those 3 were simple and have been used already in previous videos, but now we open into the dark world of function data hierarchy. This category here all relates back to the ledger entry function. It is here because we have set up an event code that is connected to ledger entry, and so since ledger entry is involved, the function data that is available connected to ledger entry is now here. Now when we first open it, it looks fairly innocent. We have journal header, journal line control, journal line detail, previous journal line details, and related static data. This is just going to be a quick one. Let's open this one up. Journal header is the stuff on the journal. Here on the header, this available for every line of the journal entry. Okay, let's go over here and open it, and you can see the types of information that is there. The journal name, the journal type, operator code, business unit description. So simple enough. Well, behind every one of these may or may not be more fields. Let me just go backwards a little bit and you see what I'm talking about. Now you can't go straight back. I wish you could. All you can do is go back to the very beginning. So I hit cancel here and it takes me back to the beginning. So I go function data hierarchy again, and I go here, and that was journal header we're just looking at, and now it's going to get darker here, so just hold on. Journal line control. Here are the journal line control information. Now these things can be actual data fields, or they can be groups. They could be folders of data fields. So let's just show you how it behaves. This is the account name, and we click OK, and it populates the field here, value 1, with that data field. So that was a data field, but let's look at it again. So we went to function data hierarchy, and we went journal line control, and last time we hit account name and it populated it. Now let's look here at that one. You cannot tell by looking at these that there's any difference, but we go click OK. This is display totals base amount, and we go OK. And instead we're carried to another folder of possible data or possible folders, which you can't tell which is which. And so we could do, and these fields are the status being picked up from up here. So we go cancel. So let's just do it again. Function data hierarchy. We go here, OK, and we have control, and we go OK, and we've got all of these journal line controls, which can be either actual data fields that can go into our business rule, or there are folders of data fields, like the one I just showed you, that will take us to other data fields and on and on and on. Let's just show you. Here's another one, various flags and controls, and we're brought to these data, journal preset code, journal source indicator, data fields here. Well, we don't know if these are data fields or not. You've got suspense here. If I click OK, is this going to take me back to my business rule and populate my business rule with this data field, or is it going to take me to another folder? And let's click it and we'll see. We go OK, and you see it took us to another folder. So we've got wheels within wheels within wheels within wheels. So we've got function data hierarchy, which are this maze of different types of data, and each screen can be this mystery between whether the item on the screen is data field, which can be used in a rule, or is it just a folder which contains more either data fields or more folders. So let's just sort of look at these categories. This is the function data hierarchy, and these are the 5 general things. We've got the journal header, journal line control, and journal line detail. And now almost all of these things are all coming from the ledger entry screen. So you can see, just to illustrate it again, there's various flags and controls there, which would be a lot more. Another folder. Here's second reference and reference. I believe reference has more. We're going to study this out deeper in a minute. Under the function data hierarchy, these first 3 are all coming from the ledger. Whether they're on the ledger entry screen or not is depending on how that form was created. You know, the ledger transaction we're about to record has all of these 3 possibilities. Now this one is cool, and we're going to have another video on that. That allows you to pull from a previous line. So you want to make a rule for line 2. Well, you can look at the information on line 1 to inform your business rule for line 2. But the one that is really interesting to us is related static data. This allows you to go deeper by using the data that was put in on the ledger entry screen to the underlying data. The data here is linking back to the static data. So you put in an account number, and it's able to now pull in information about the account details or the chart of accounts. Here are about 8 or 9 different categories of static data which are available for your business rule. Based on the information you put in on the ledger entry, it can find more details and pull into your business rule information from these categories. Let's just say, for example, if an account code is brought up, let's say an ER account code, and you wanted to code the transaction, say a flag or a who or project, by the fact that ER is an executive, you can track down through account details and a chart of accounts. Let's see if we can track it down here. Account details and account analysis dimension. Go OK there. Then we have, my example was not coming out real clear, but let's just say over in the chart of accounts under the account analysis 7, we had marked whether this was an executive. Then we're able to write a rule that brings in that he is an executive, and we write a rule that populates a field in ledger entry under project. All of that information that is in the static data is available both to be part of our criteria and part of the values when we do an action. Maybe we need another example example, let's say that we wanted to have for every one of our students and the chart of accounts. Let me just take us all the way there so we're very clear what we're talking about. In the chart of accounts for every one of our students, we code where the student is from. So one of these codes here would be the country the student was from. Then we write a business rule here, detail that whenever we use the student's account for revenue, it brings the student's country into details. We want to keep track of what country we're making the revenue. So we would do that using a business rule by pulling in from this account analysis, which has the student's country, pulling that into our rule here and assigning the transaction analysis code 10 with the account analysis code that we have pulled in from that data lookup there from this location right here. The point being, we can pull into our rules data from all of the static data locations. The data can be used to populate the ledger entry, or the data can be used to check the validity of an entry. It can be part of the rules conditional statements, or it can be part of the rules action statements. Those values can be over here, or the values can be over there. That is the nature of being able to dig deep into finding the fields using the data dictionary lookup. This is very confusing. There's this constant deep maze of information that is in here, and you have this constant exercise of clicking on these things and having either more things appear. If I clicked on that one, it would take me back to the business rule. If I click on that one, it takes me to a deeper folder, and I have no idea how deep this thing goes. Did you see that one? It went even one deeper. What I have done is I've started the mapping project, which I'm hoping to get you all involved with right here. And I have created a map of all of these different places that you can go in the data dictionary lookup, and you can see how complicated it gets. So this is the way you would use this document. Before I show you how to use it, let me just show you the logic of it again, and it's just following the same thing as we just saw. So we start here, we click on the value there, so we click on the little helper button and it brings us to this familiar place right here, and then we click on rule common fields and it brings us to this. Rule data fields are down there and workspace is down there, but the one that's really complicated is the function data hierarchy. So if you clicked on that, it takes you to these 5 possibilities. And then these 5 possibilities take you to each of the things that pop up in here, and you could just see that it gets more and more complicated, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Now the way that you would use this is reverse the direction of what you just saw. Let's say you wanted to find whether a ledger analysis code was used or not. You would find that it was over here, the usage flag was there, and then you go back this way, writing this down and map your way back to how to pull it up when you do the business rule. You need to find your destination first on the map, hunting around for that data value that you want in your business rule, and once you find it, then you use this to reverse the direction you need to go so that when you get over to here, you know exactly how to get to wherever it is you want. You've written down the map, you know that the information you need is over there, and you just continue following that mapping until you get to exactly what you want brought up. This is a mapping project. I'm going to put this map of all the ones that I have found, and I'm going to put this on Yammer in the business rule group. And what I think will be just fine is that if you find more things that are not on this map, you can add it to the map and save it for everyone else. And this mapping here is only on the ledger entry function. But we have dozens of other functions like setting up an asset. So each of those will need to be mapped, and we would have a tab. So this would be ledger entry tab, and then conceivably we'll make another map just like this for setting up a fixed asset, and hopefully we'll have enough of these things put together that it will be useful for the whole world in finding the data that it needs. It's not easy, and by the way, I don't have any misunderstanding that this map will solve all of your problems. It will be just an aid, perhaps, just to apply the way this thing works. We were looking at this business rule over here, and we had payment method, and you're left with the question, well, what in the world is payment method? And if you come back over here to the map and search 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 and search, look and look and look and look, and you find it right there, payment method. The use of this map is so you don't have to do all of that drilling downward and this mystery between whether the drill down actually just populates a data item or whether it brings you deeper into a deeper folder. You just have to keep working until you find it. Well, hopefully this map will help us. And someday, maybe we'll find somebody that will retype the map for us. What would be the ideal thing would be to have the dot typed into Word as an outline, and that way we could search much more effective than this. If we could search using the search find routine within Word, we type in the word payment method and it would find it in this outline. And you could just see that, you could just imagine this as an outline here. This would be the highest level, and then this would be a secondary level, and the third level, and the fourth level. And so maybe one day we can find somebody that will do that for us. And so in any case, this is the difficulty you have with data mapping and data locations and business rules. And I hope this has been helpful. I know it's a little complicated. Thanks for sticking with business rules. We've got some more videos coming up on business rules. Stay tuned for them.